In this video, we're going to be examining Jordan Peterson and his use of sophistry. Now, it's interesting. A lot of people who critique Jordan Peterson online, especially his use of speech, are left-wing. They'll post a video of him saying something that they don't really understand, and they'll say, look at this word salad. Look at this pseudo-intellectual. But I find that lazy. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to get some clips of him talking and examine what he says. We're going to examine the points he makes and examine the way he communicates those points. I personally believe that after looking into it, I truly do believe that he uses tons of sophistry. And when you examine it, it becomes very clear. So let's look at the first clip.
It depends on whether or not you believe that our descriptions of material reality are the superordinate descriptions of reality, or whether our conceptualization of material is actually a form of pragmatic tool use that's oriented towards our survival.
This is a very famous clip. I actually found it from a video called Jordan Peterson's Word Salad. Now again, we're not going to simply be calling this a word salad. Let's actually break this down. And what he is saying in this video is that when it comes to science and philosophy, is what we are describing in the world around us actually objective truth, or is this simply a perspective or a tool that aids in our survival? That is to a T what he said. Now when we examine those two, what I said and he said literally mean the exact same thing. But there's a difference. Something is going on with him. Either he doesn't know how to articulate his thoughts in a presentable manner to outside audiences, or he is simply using sophistry. One of the ways you can use sophistry is you can use terms and words that are not ordinarily used in order to throw people off or to think that what you are saying is actually deeper than it is. I personally agree with many things Jordan Peterson says, especially when it comes to psychology, but I'm against what he's doing right now, which is he is needlessly overcomplicating topics in order to change how they look. In other words, he's making these things appear much more fashionable, deep, and wise than they actually are. These are actually pretty simple topics to discuss. And I think the reason why he does this is because a lot of people fall for sophistry. What he is doing here is not effective communication. It is not clear, it is not articulate, it is not concise, and it is not effectively communicating the point. If you are truly a smart individual, you should be able to take concepts that are rather complicated and simplify them down to make them easier to digest for other people. Jordan Peterson is not known for that. He is not, period. I don't care if you like him, he does not do that well. And I personally believe that he is very smart. And he talks about how all of these concepts he's thought about for a very long time. And if that's the case, the longer you've thought about it, the better you should be able to express those ideas in a clear, concise, and effective manner. In fact, it seems as if he somehow knows how to overcomplicate things. That's what he commonly does. He gives a speech that half of the people in the audience don't actually understand. And then he says, and what I mean by that is, and then he explains it in a simple, clear manner that people can understand. There's no need to open up with a complicated and messy version of it first, unless you're trying to impress people. It's like he's trying to bring out this complicated idea, and then he says, I'm going to dumb it down for you idiots, because I'm that smart. And it's a form of sophistry. It's used to impress people who are more naive, perhaps even could be used to impress younger men who don't have the wisdom or discernment to be able to distinguish sophistry from deep intellectual wisdom. Quickie interruption, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. Because again, if he truly has thought about these things for as long as he says, he should be able to break them down to very simple concepts. Let's look at another one.
The way your brain construes reality is as if what you're confronting is an indeterminate, chaotic potential that first generates something like apprehension, fear, and curiosity secondarily. The apprehension to freeze you so that you don't get eaten or destroyed, and the curiosity to allow you to engage with what's unknown and to transform it into habitable territory, which in large part consists of tools.
Now I know, I don't have to explain this, you obviously know what he means. You wouldn't have to watch it 5 times in a row to understand what the hell he's talking about, right? Even though I know you easily understood what he said, I'll break it down for you. What he is saying essentially is, when you discover something new, you have 2 reactions to it, fear and curiosity. Why? Because everything that is new that you discover, especially in the wild, it has the potential to either help you or to kill you. Since that's the case, our first reaction by default is going to be fear, because it's better to survive than to innovate. It's not a complicated thing. That's honestly easier to understand than the first clip we covered. The first clip we covered actually had a much more complicated idea behind it. This one is actually really easy to understand, but he somehow managed to make this one even more complicated than the previous one. Notice though, he mythologicalized that very concept. He took that idea and turned it into some sort of mythology, as if he's a priest or shaman, and he's giving his deep wisdom, because that's how he views himself. That's how he wants to portray himself. He doesn't want to be seen as a smart professor. No, that's not good enough for him. He wants to be seen as this deep intellectual, a prophet, an oracle. Like, get over yourself, man. What you're talking about is not that deep. It doesn't need to be worded this way. And he does this constantly. He mythologicalizes what he is saying, and he overcomplicates it. He has to talk in a special, unique way. It's not even that he's using analogies to illustrate what he's talking about. That's useful. That makes concepts easier to grasp. But he actively muddies the water. It's his goal to make it hard to understand, because he hopes that if you don't understand it, you're simply going to assume that he is smarter than you, that the thing he's talking about is much deeper than it actually is. That is a use of sophistry. It's you're taking an argument or an idea and presenting it and fashioning it up better than it actually is in order to impress people. This works especially on younger, naive men who lack proper discernment. They can't tell deep wisdom from sophistry, and he's taking advantage of that. But at the same time, I don't hate him. He has a lot of useful information out there, but you shouldn't disagree with somebody or hate them on the basis of bad communication. Instead, what you should be able to do is to articulate what he is saying, make it clear and concise, and see if you agree or disagree with that. Another thing I know I'm going to get in the comments is people are going to say, no, he's not portraying himself as an oracle or a prophet. He's not trying to paint himself that way. Do you have any proof of that? Do you have a clip of him saying, I'm a prophet, I'm so incredibly smart, I'm an oracle, I'm an intellectual? The problem is, you don't need that. Let me give you an analogy here. If somebody came up to you, dressed like royalty, he's wearing a garment, he's holding a golden staff, and he has a crown on the top of his head. If you call him out and say, you're not a king, you're not royalty, what are you doing? He will simply say, I never said I was royalty. Where did you get that idea from? That is literally what he is doing. He's giving himself plausible deniability by not overtly saying, I'm a prophet, I'm an oracle. He's simply assuming that role. And when people call him those things, when people say that he has an IQ of 180, he never denies it. He in fact loves that attention. He loves being viewed that way. You can tell. He gives a fake, humble bravado, an image of himself. But secretly, that's what he wants. He wants to be viewed as something better than he actually is. Because being a professor, that's not good enough. He wants to be viewed as a prophet. I guarantee it. And here's the final points I want you to walk away with. This is very important. I believe it is deceitful and does make him a charlatan. It could be that he is very smart. It could be that he has words of wisdom. But if he's actively faking who he is, puffing out his chest and trying to appear as something that he isn't, that is dishonest behavior. That makes him a charlatan, I believe. Also, I know people are going to say in the comments that I cherry-picked these clips, and that he doesn't always speak that way, to which you would be correct. Otherwise, nobody would ever understand what he is saying. But it doesn't change the fact that he constantly does this on a less extreme level, and by picking extreme examples, it would be useful to highlight what I'm talking about. And that is the end of this video. I hope you found this useful and that it sheds some light on the topic. And if enough people like this video, I might make a video going into the reasons why I believe that it is very likely Jordan Peterson is a covert narcissist. If this video does well, I'll make that part. If you like that idea, be sure to like this video and let me know in the comments. Anyways, have a good one.
Last man standing.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't even know how he killed me. That physics doesn't make sense in this game sometimes.
Yeah.
The slightest tap just killed me.
That's pretty.
Like
that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Like it was a ghost as well.
I don't get it. It's pretty nuts.